everyone, I'm Andre. I'm here with Bruce Goldsmith, that I've been wanting to meet for a long time. Owner, designer of Bruce Goldsmith Designs, paraglider designer for a long time. And as a designer myself, always wanted to ask you, Bruce, how did you go about designing a paraglider? I know it's a very broad question, but...
Yeah, well, I mean, I started designing paragliders in 1990, and so ever since that time, it's been a constant evolution. So, you know, you don't just start designing a paraglider from scratch, you always base it on what you've done before. So the first step nowadays is to look at your existing products, decide where they are, what their weak points are and their strong points are, and then you improve on the weak points and maintain the strong points. And so it's very much a process of evolution. But at the same time, paragliding sport is progressing with leaps and bounds with technical improvements. And so often it's just a case of looking at the technical improvements over the last 2 years and incorporating those into an already existing design which is successful. So, you know, there's different ways.
Yeah. I mean, from quite a maybe simplistic point of view, if you look at the various elements of a paraglider, say overall outside shape of the canopy, internal structure, lines, is there a set of priorities? Like, do you start by defining the outside shape of the airfoil and then work on the internal structure and then the lines, or something? Is there a certain process to that?
Normally there's, you know, as you say, there's so many different components, and normally I have previous experiences about how you might choose the plan form, for instance, and then maybe we come up with a new design concept for plan form, and then I make an experiment based on that new concept, and then I compare it with the plan form I was using before, get the new plan form, and then you test whether your theory was correct or not. You know, so and each of the design components you follow a similar process to. So like you might have an idea, okay, I'll try a new speed system on the risers, then you try the new speed system, compare it to the old system, do comparative tests, and then you decide whether the new idea worked or not.
So that's quite interesting. That's more iterative than what I thought, because what I thought is you go to the design table, if you will, and you go, right, this is priority number one, change that, and then change that, and change that. But what you're saying is actually, if there's 10 main points of 10 massive big points around the paraglider, what you do is you get something that works, change, say, the platform or the speed system, and try that in isolation with something that you already know works, to see if that change has the improvement and the effect that you want, and then maybe incorporate that into the design. So you iterate through different design ideas to get to where you want, rather than changing everything at once.
Yeah, and there's also, don't forget that you also have the design process, you know, which is the computer program and the analysis. And quite often you're not changing the plan form, you're just changing part of the process of the design. So you're not only talking about, you know, the hundreds of different characteristics of the paraglider, you've got the design process to consider as well. So you might be just changing some parameters in the design process as well.
It's very interesting, very interesting. I think it's very much a dark science for most flyers. You know, I think there's a handful of people that understand it around the world, and most of them might be around here. But yeah, I think any light that we can shed on it, people really appreciate it, because most pilots are geeks at heart, really.
Yeah, well, I mean, the most interesting thing is that most of the most interesting design advances are kept secret.
Exactly, it's like Formula One, right? You want to keep your competitive advantage.
Yeah. So I always think it's funny when the brands put, you know, all those little symbols on the glider. You know, we've got mini ribs, we got this, we got this, we got this. But you have to remember that the really important ones are missing from the list, you know? That's exactly the funny thing. You know?
For sure. Yeah, so we've talked about quite a few of these at once actually, which is quite good. Another thing that I've heard you talk about a little bit before in other interviews, but how do you see the state of certification these days, where the number of wings that have to go through, all the different sizes and everything like that? How much of the design process is based on how you want to build a wing for the customers, for the feel of fly, and how much of it is to actually pass a test so that the customers and the various institutions around the world have confidence that the paraglider is safe or it fits into a certain category?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately now that the tests are pretty good and they don't force you to make bad gliders, because in the past sometimes the tests forced you to make bad gliders, you know, which didn't fly nicely. But now we've managed to have certification tests which, you know, work well with genuine safety, and that's good. I think that one of the problems though with certification is that the certification, it's very difficult for it to evolve and to improve, because it takes basically 5 years for any new certification test to come in.
Okay.
And that's
very long period.
Very, very long period. You have to basically get it approved by every country in Europe, you know, and that's really hard, you know.
A lot of people to convince.
Yeah.
That it's a good idea.
Yes, so the certification, designing certification itself is a very, very hard thing. And I'm actually trying to propose some new changes now in the certification, but people are really reluctant to even touch the certification because it's such a difficult thing to change. But as I said, you know, I'm quite positive about the way certification is now, and that the way that it doesn't make you do bad things to gliders.
So it's a lot better than what it used to be. I do have here who to design for in market sizes, as well as combined with competition gliders, because this year just passed, you've released the Diva, and Carlos and Tyr have flown it, and I'm sure you've flown it a lot as well. How do you see that whole, because obviously, as far as I understand, the B is the biggest class of all.
Yes,
And it's kind of like, again, Formula One for car manufacturers. Is it worth the investment? Is it not for comp gliders?
Well, with the Diva, we didn't actually release it, you know. We only made 6 or something like that, 8, and we were forced to certify it because of the requirements of certification now. And according to those requirements, we have to allow it for sale to the public. But we ourselves didn't want to release the glider. So it's a real interesting problem that we were forced to announce it, forced to put it up online, but we didn't want to release it. It's a funny situation.
And how did you find flying it? What did the guys think about flying it in competition and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I really specifically designed that glider just for my son to fly, for Tyr to fly in the Worlds, and it was perfect for that, you know. But it's not really a glider for general public release. So that's, you know, it's a strange situation. It's a difficult position.
Fair enough. Lastly, I think a lot of people would like to know what's new in 2018, and probably what most of people are here in Thermik Mess for. What's new with BGD in 2018?
Okay, well, our newest wing is the Lynx, which is our high-end ENC glider. It's a lightweight version of the Cure, but it's more than just a lightweight version of the Cure, because I changed the internal structure of the wing and redesigned all the lines, redesigned the accelerated speed system, changed a lot of things, so it's not just a lightweight version. And this is our X-Alps glider, if you like, and X-Beer this year. And it's our high-performance ENC glider. We also got a whole load of new paramotor wings. We got the Luna 2, which is coming out this spring, and we've got the paramotor versions of the Epic and the Echo as well. So we've got a whole new range of paramotor wings. And we've also got the Seed, which is a ground handling glider.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that one.
Small ground handling glider, and it's a really fun glider. It's really, really nice. And we found that it's something which you don't only use just for ground handling, but it's a really good glider to have in for playing around on the dunes and stuff like that as well.
That's exactly what I want to do when I get to try one. But just going back a couple of steps with the Luna 2 and you saying that there might be other paramotor wings.
Yeah.
What is the main design considerations in making a glider that's good for paramotoring versus free flight? Because one thing that gets banged around a lot is reflex. Yes. But I want to start flying paramotors at some point, so I'd like to understand more about that.
Yeah, but there are two different kinds of paramotor wing. There's the crossover wings, which are used for free flying and paramotor, and those have trimmer systems on the risers, and so the reflex is put in just with the trimmer system. And then you have paramotor only gliders, which have the reflex designed into the wing itself. So the Luna 2 is a true reflex wing, whereas the other ones are crossover wings, where the reflex is only induced from the risers. And it's more effective to have reflex induced into the sail itself with the Luna 2. But the problem with that is that those kind of gliders are not so good for free flying, because they're better for cruising with the trimmers off and cruising with the paramotor. But if you then fly those gliders as a free-flying wing, in the weak conditions, the handling is not so nice. And when you fly with trimmers slow and brakes on, they're not optimized to fly in that configuration, which is thermaling, basically. So free-flying wings are more optimized for thermaling, whereas paramotor wings are more optimized for flying trimmers off and cruising at higher speed.
Well, I was going to say that. What does the reflex actually do? Is it just the general position in which the wing is happy to sit? So if you look at free flight, in general, you have the wing overhead. But if you're paramotoring and you're under power, it kind of always wants to stay back a bit because of the pilot swinging underneath with the power on. Is that why the reflex helps at that attitude, or?
Yeah, it is, because the wing, when you put the reflex on, the whole of the back part of the wing is not basically doing nothing. It's almost just in the drag of the front part. There's actually no lift produced at the back part of the wing. So it's a way of making the wing small, if you like. It's like having a small glider without actually having a small glider. So then you can put the trimmers on, and then that's good for landing and gives you a lower landing and takeoff speed.
Because if you were to fly a normal wing with a paramotor, then it was hang back, produce more lift than what you need and a lot more drag. Is that a fair assessment?
It's just that it's not so comfortable for cruising at high speed.
Or you'd have to be on the speed bar all the time, and then it would induce other problems from doing that. Is there any plans to do any other harnesses other than the Snug or Evolve it or anything like that?
We're working on some harnesses, but nothing is close to release at the moment.
Just in the design stage. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it, and I hope to see you soon with some more developments.